Hey fam. So today I want to share something with you. So my Surface X died, Microsoft Surface X. I've had it for several years, and I was in the Microsoft. I am in the Microsoft ecosystem, but again, the way the modern world works now, there are basically three big ecosystems that you're in. You're either in Google, Apple, Microsoft, maybe all three, combination of the two. Myself, I'm in the Google ecosystem and the micro ecosystem. So, okay, enough about that. So, the reason that I had a Surface X is I wanted a tablet, but I didn't necessarily want a laptop, such as a full blown Microsoft Surface, and which I've owned in the past. I've owned pretty much every iteration of Surface, from the Surface to the Surface laptops. I have a Surface Studio at work. I've had the Surface Studio laptop. I've had every model of Surface. So for me, it was a natural thing to go to that ecosystem. And so I had a Surface X. So I even bought a Surface X for my wife. She has one. She loved it. Well, mine finally died, and it was unable to be resuscitated. Right, so it had a DNR on it. So I, after trying to resuscitate it, after trying to get it to work, I decided that I needed to get a new tablet. Now, there's a painful thing for me with tablets. I'm not actually a fan of tablets inherently, and partially because I've been in the IT space, the technology game, for a very long time, and I was around for the birth of tablets. I was there for the iterations of Microsoft Tablet back in the day, and then the transition to the more mobilized tablets, such as iPads. Again, the original tablet was a Kindle, but I digress. So whether it be an iOS tablet or an Android tablet, for me, the functionality was never there. Sorry. They were glorified phones with large screens, stretched applications across those screens, aspect ratios that were imperfect at best, terrible at worst, and largely the resolution wasn't proportional to the screen size. There were a lot of things wrong. Reading was horrible on them because, again, the resolution wasn't there. So that means that the kerneling on the lettering was different. They were a mess. Probably within the last, I say on the iPad side, they finally started to get it right probably about 5 years ago, maybe six. I say about 5 years ago, as they verged closer to making it closer to a desktop OS without actually verging into that desktop range. They've maintained that bifurcation between the desktop for them applications such as their MacBooks and their desktops with Mac OS and the iOS. They've maintained, but they've actually had some synergy between those two, which is very clean, very nice. So that's an important thing. One of the other pieces that I will say is that on the Android side, they were much further behind. And at one time, they were actually ahead. Still, same problems, mushy resolution, overstretched applications, the whole thing. But they actually had a better grasp of the aspect ratio and those type of things, but it still was just a mess. It was mush. I've had several. I had previous iterations of Samsung, Asus laptops. I've owned iPads before, and none of them did anything for me. So that was why my choice to go to what Microsoft was using as their actual mobile tablet with a dumbed down OS with the Surface X worked for me. Now, it did have some caveats, or it does have some caveats, I should say. Matter of fact, they've moved away from that now with the Surface 11, I guess, is what it is, to where they've used that form factor, which is a very thin, small, relatively lightweight form factor, beautiful screen, the built-in kickstand, which that still is something that I wish all tablets had across the different ecosystems. But in any case, the built-in kickstand, in beautiful colors that allow you to personalize your, or at least purchase according to your aesthetic to make an expression. So I do like that. The thing I did not like is that there was a lack of application support from Microsoft, and that's Google, that's Android in general, and iOS apps, also even Amazon apps. You know, at one time, Amazon and Google both made apps for mobile that were available on Windows. That went away. So then Microsoft tried to do the whole PwC thing, and it's a mess. So one of the functionalities that I enjoy on my phone from a mobile aspect is that I have my reading apps, for example, such as the Kindle app from from Amazon, and the Google Books app, which I have both libraries in both. There's another magazine called Zenio, which I use, which actually was on the Windows, but it was a web-based thing. So in any case, it died. I had a decision to make. I decided that I was going to go with the looking for an Android tablet that could accommodate, while still debating whether I wanted to get the latest iteration of Windows tablet. And as the algorithms always do, I kept getting inundated with the Samsung tablet, specifically Samsung Ultras, the 9 and the 10. So I remember watching MK BHD videos on the Samsung Ultra 9, and how he actually was a fan of it. He had the question mark is his iPad killer, right? Because iPad is still the standard there. And I've seen Mr. Who's the Boss, and I watched the others. So I was, looking at the 9, but the 10 just dropped. And so there was a question of whether I go with the newest, latest, and greatest. Is the juice worth the squeeze? Is there a discernible difference between the two that's worth the premium price that I would pay for the newer device as opposed to the older device? So I started looking at various comparison videos from YouTubers out there, and to my eye, no, it wasn't worth the premium. There were some better aspects in regard to some of the newer integrations that Samsung has placed in their AI, but from my use case, I have, a premium Gemini account. I have a Copilot account, so I don't need those. And most of the Samsung apps that have the AI integration, they have it anyway. So there may not be the OS integration, but for what I would need, I'm fine. I'm good. So that's not enough of a premium. One of the other things that was mentioned is the choice that Samsung has used, starting with the Galaxy S24 and now into the Galaxy Tab Ultra 10, is the matte screen. Because, high strain, using it outdoors, it is a highly reflective screen. It's a big piece of glass. One of the other reasons, speaking of big piece of glass, was that 14.5 inch screen. That to me appeals to me because it puts it into laptop territory, but again, with the thinness of it, it really makes it something of an alternative, a real alternative. So, what do I do? So, I started looking, and I was checking out both, but I kind of locked in on looking at the 9 so that I can save some coin. And then happened to look on Best Buy. The Best Buy up the street from me, they had a open box, and if you know Matthew, I'm the open box king, baby. So I went and found one that was in excellent condition at the Best Buy right up the street from me, strangely enough. I made the purchase, and so let's take a look at where I am. So I will say this, spoiler alert, I am very pleased with this. I have probably used this tablet more in the last 2.5 weeks that I've had it than any tablet I've ever owned. That's just full stop. But let's look at what I got for the buck and why I am a fan of this particular device. But it in, I did get the stand cover, so it has the, I'll flip it over. It has the garage here. The pin does, you know, it on these, they're stored magnetically, which is a benefit. I have a pin for my Surface, and you have to carry it as a separate component, so that was a pain in the ass. So I do like that this, not only does it garage here, but it also charges. And then with this Samsung case, it actually locks into place and holds it. So the magnet is very strong. So you could literally walk around. I'm pulling on it now with a fair amount of force, and it's not releasing. It takes a little bit of effort. And not only does it do that, but through magnetic induction, it actually charges the pin so that it's always charged, which is another pain in the ass with the Surface Pen, is that if you didn't have the keyboard, to inductively charge it inside the keyboard, you had to use the charger with it. So again, it was a pain in the butt. So anyway, so I bought this. This was only $100 for this case, as opposed to the keyboard, which was $200. So again, I already had the equipment. Why would I expend money on the other if I have it? And it has a very origami type of design. So you see these folds here. Back up a little bit. See these folds? So you hit this little tab here on the side. See what it looks like from the front. There. Got the tab. And as you flip it, it actually folds down. And only one side comes down. So disadvantage there. So it's lightweight. So that's an advantage, but disadvantage, it does have a little slight wobble sometimes. It's not major, number one. Number two, you cannot put this on your lap, or at least without some difficulty. So there's that piece. So what I'm gonna do now is, you have this other front cover which protects the screen, has a nice soft microfiber Alcantara-ish, I think that's Alcantara front, which actually helps to protect the screen as well, whereas this is smooth and kind of a hard plastic on the outside. So this works well as a good keyboard rest, and mouse pad or rest here is where this is. So but it can get in the way if you're not using those things, right? So if you're holding it, one thing that this does do is it actually connects magnetically through the bottom like that, right? And it's a smart cover, so when you close it, it turns off the machine when you close it, like that. So one other benefit, sorry, I'm manipulating this with one hand, is that it will fold all the way backwards. So it lays down in itself and still stays connected. I have it in this configuration sometimes, but it adds weight and it adds a little bit more to the grip. So most times when I have it in this configuration, I just take it off like that. So for the purposes of the video, I'm gonna just take this off, and I'm going to just set the stand up so we can talk. There you go. All right, so got it on the stand. So enough about the actual case and about the screen protector. Let's look at the actual device. So got that picture there. Oh, comics. So this is a 14.5-inch screen, and it is brilliant. First of all, it is a gorgeous screen. Sorry, let me get a little sip here. Yeah, it's a gorgeous screen. It actually it is very bright. I think the 10 is a little bit brighter. That was one of the things. They took the lumens up on it, but it's brighter. It's very responsive, very snappy to all of your movements and such. You can do all your gadgets and stuff. There's videos for that. I'm not going to really get into that. What I will say is that this is, I actually use this. So I said that I didn't use the Surface as much as just around the house, so it actually gathered a lot of dust. But this thing is incredible because it is mobile. There's been a lot of work done by developers to incorporate different screen sizes. See, that used to be a problem. So back down in the history lesson, essentially when you had the iPad, well, the first tablet technically was the Kindle, but moving forward, when you had the iPad, the problem there is that it was just the phone OS, that was optimized for a phone, and the resolution was terrible. The experience was relatively terrible because of that. The apps weren't, they were misformed whenever you would open them. The recognition of portrait versus landscape was terrible. There was a lot. And that continued to be the case for most mobile tablets, whether it's iPad or if it was the Asus or if it was the Google. Most of them had terrible, terrible, terrible experiences. Just being honest, there were a lot of compromises that were there. We've finally gotten to a point now where, with the addition of being able to add hardware like keyboards and mouse pads, so that you can actually use them as a lightweight, on the go productivity device, creativity device, as opposed to a consumption device, which is what they were. They've actually become creative devices, productivity devices, not just consumption. So that helps. So, anyway, my first thing I'll tell you about this is that this sucker is loud. So it has 4 speakers. It has like quad speakers, and it is loud, and the speakers sound amazing. So I could do it now, but it's not really going to translate that well. Again, there are other videos where you can look at that if you'd like. One other piece here is that we talked about the screen, right? So with this 14-inch screen, I love having this much real estate. The bad side of that is that it does add a little bit more, it adds or takes away, I should say, from the dexterity of having a tablet, if you will. It's very thin, right? It's razor thin. That case is adding a lot of, I don't know how we can, there we go. It's very thin, so it's not like it's carrying a lot of weight and it's heavy, but holding any device like this size with this aspect ratio, there's a certain level of awkwardness that comes with it. So it does tire over time. That said, sitting on your lap, which is the default posture for most of these, is fine. Most people aren't going to hold it out like this, some type of Shaolin monk test or whatever. You're going to hold it down or have it on a table. So it's adequate. And, reading in bed, those type of things. So that brings me to something, but I'm going to hold on to that. So in any case, this screen is beautiful. And if I open up YouTube, first of all, you see that YouTube has been formatted for it, right? But if we go back to, let's just pick any video here. This is Neil deGrasse Tyson. And you can hear the sound. It actually sounds great. I'm going to mute it for this purposes. But when you fill the screen, it actually, because of the aspect ratio, it really, really brings you or draws you in to the actual viewing experience. So I'm actually getting more use out of this than I did my Windows tablet. Short story long, right? Something else that I will bring is that I couldn't do the reading apps as well because Amazon and Google both stunted or stopped their production of their native reading apps, such as Google Books or Kindle from Amazon. So on the Windows devices, they're here again. So I have access to all of my books again, which is awesome. So again, with this format, it actually is the size of a book. So if I open up Kindle and let's just pick Neil deGrasse Tyson, you have this, and you can make all of the changes to the formatting and that type of thing. But as you can see, it's a page here, a page there, it's a book. Or you can turn it on its side and it becomes a single page, which is huge, that you can kind of thumb through that way. Something else that I have fun with is comics, right? And now the way that Google and Amazon handle comic books is a little different. Some of them have the little scroll through thing or whatever. I actually prefer Google's handling of comics, but it's a little different because this makes it more of a cartoon, interactive, which is cool, but yeah. So if I go through to The Google side, excuse me. So again, you have two pages with all the panels on it. So it's like a comic book. Got a little bit of black space, but it's not really a big deal. They also have the thing where, it's interactive, right? Where you go through the balloons pop out when you stroke the screen. But this is worth the price of admission. Look at that. So that entire page is popped right into the side in the portrait aspect. And so now, and they added the animation on there. So if I change this, it actually looks like a page, which is pretty cool. And to be able to do it smoothly like this really speaks to the performance of this tablet, right? But just look at that. So yeah, so that's it. And I'm reading this and I flip pages. And so this is, some of the stuff that I'm looking at. This is actually, this is a great comment with Dick Grayson. Yeah, called Grayson. So yeah, so I've actually started to read again. So comics, I'm reading books again. I don't really read them in paperback form anymore just because okay, this is my own little tick, but I prefer to have my books in a format like this because, as you saw, I have an entire library of books on this device or in the cloud available to this device. Whereas I have books in this house and they take up a lot of space. It looks good, looks cool. No knock against books or whatever, please. If you want to buy, real books, it's fine. For me, years ago, I started moving toward making as much of my life digital as possible, just because of the sheer convenience of not having to have those physical forms all around me, right? So here's another application that I use called Zenio that has magazines. That's pretty much what it is. So if I go through, where's my library? Here, got my PC World magazine. And again, this looks like I'm holding an actual magazine at this aspect. It is crazy, right? And then, you just kind of flip. Now, they don't have the sexy page turn thing. They just have the slide. But, on a plane, you have this downloaded or somewhere in a room, this is good. And then a lot of the benefits of having the digital is that, not only do you have the links that you can go directly to, as opposed to having to look that up on your phone, but you can actually do, some of them actually have other call outs that you can do at a time. I can jump through pages. I can change the format. I can just go to a text mode in this, where now this is a little bit easier to read as opposed to the magazine form, right? With the graphical look. So yeah, these are awesome. So this is something I share with my son that he was like, well, I don't see you reading more. It's like, because most of my reading is digital and it's more difficult to do on the phone because of the size of the phone. This actually works for me. So no, it's not just a glorified, a glorified Kindle for me. It is actually, this is useful. And this is one of the reasons why I have gone to use this tablet a lot. But most of the functionality is good. Now, there are some caveats where certain products, certain programs that we utilize actually have a more of a mobile feel. So they'll go portrait side and it's the mobile app. And I guess that's okay. I'm not a fan, I think, but I understand that they may not recognize that screen size. And so that's what they're working with. What else did I want to show you guys about this? So, of course, web pages, look like web pages on here, as opposed to not like the phone or whatever, but everything here is great. So again, depending on the aspect ratio, you're looking at it from this perspective or that perspective, depending on if you're reading. I prefer looking at things through portrait when I'm reading. Now, this is more of a strain holding it this way because half of the weight is on the other side and it's more of the weight. So you're actually kind of cantilevering it when you hold it this way. So there is that. the pen function is amazing in some cases. I do use it for example, like with a lot of the renovations at the house or taking notes. I'll have my OneNote open. I can just write directly on the screen, or the Samsung Notes, which I'm so sad that I lost a lot of my Samsung Notes because I switched from Samsung over to my Google Pixel, and there isn't an analog between those two per se. That was a bummer. But having a Samsung tablet, I was able to access Samsung Notes, and it does some amazing work as well. But yeah, so I'm very pleased with this so far. If I need to get to the nitty gritty, one thing I will say again is that the another caveat for me is when it comes to like productivity. So Word, Excel, all those things, that's fine. This is a proper screen for that, number one, because this is the same size screen as my son's, it's his MacBook, right? But half the weight, well, a lot less weight, a lot more portable, and a lot different application and functionality. I get that too. But one of the things that I do have a problem with is that when I'm using the some of the productivity apps, like my Microsoft Office productivity apps, such as PowerPoint and such, the issue is that I have the capabilities aren't necessarily the same if I'm editing. So this is a presentation I've done recently, and one of the things that you have that I really love about Microsoft is the designer has been incorporated in here for a while, and it may just be me, but I don't see it here on the ribbon. So that's one of the problems I have necessarily, is that I don't quite have that native experience that I'm looking for. That could be more Microsoft as a developer than it is and how it recognizes this. But I do remember having it on my phone. So I haven't quite cracked that nut yet. So that's something I'm looking at as far as how I'm working through these type of small issues. But the keyboard that I have is it's a Microsoft keyboard. Very small, fits into my small bag. It's my go bag. This barely fits. This barely fits, and it will not fit in the laptop pocket. It is that large. So that is an issue that I had to consider. But there's that, and then I have this. This is my touchpad. This is pretty much, my productivity setup is like this. So I can move this around, understanding that most of the time you're not using a touchpad, right? You're using, a keyboard, you can use your fingers, you can use the pen. So having all of those things available to you is pretty cool, right? They connect via Bluetooth. This is rechargeable. This one uses like CR2032 batteries, uses two of them. And it lasts, like those lithium batteries last a long time. So if I need productivity, I have this bad boy here. I put these on there, and then do the touchpad thing. Yeah. So these actually work very well for me. I've been very successful with that. So sitting at a coffee house and trying to get a little bit of personal work done is awesome. It has enough power to be able to do those things. Editing videos. My video editing software of choice has been Filmora. And I actually prefer the mobile version of Filmora than I do to a normal desktop version for some reason. And this works great. And what's nice about this is that it has so much real estate that I'm able to utilize the timeline better than I can on the phone, and I can do it in a landscape aspect ratio, so it allows me to have more real estate there when I'm developing or working on videos like this stuff. Filmora is pretty powerful, so this is not an endorsement. none of this is, I've paid for everything that you see here. So I'm not endorsing anyone here. But what I will say is that this is fun sharing with you some of the things that I use this for. And one other thing is I have the Samsung earbuds. These are the Pros, and these sound great. These connect flawlessly with the tablet because number one is Samsung, but number two, they're just really great at multi-point, so you can then connect them to multiple devices at once. So if I need privacy and I'm not using, my phone to listen to something, I can listen to it through this. Streaming quality is excellent. So there's another piece there that I would add. It has cameras, but I've never been the camera on a app, kind of a camera on a tab guy, and that's just never please. But they're adequate. They're basically phone cameras, so which is good nowadays. I haven't tested that functionality because again, I'm just not the person to hold a camera out like this in front of me while I'm trying to take a photo. It's just me. Where I have used this is using Google Meet with my wife. So as we travel, we can talk to each other, even just sometimes around the house. Like, hey, baby, what you got going on up there? Google Meet shows up great and flawless. So this machine actually has changed my mind on tablets. You see the fingerprint reader is here. It's a underscreen ultrasonic fingerprint reader. It's pretty flawless. Works pretty well. But this has changed the way that I look at tablets. I was suspect. I thought that I was gonna buy it, purchased it from, like I said, open box from Best Buy. I thought that I was gonna return it, and instead, I've actually this has been in. I wish I had a strap because this has been going with me most everywhere I've gone for again content creation, content consuming. It checks all of those boxes for me. Whereas even the Windows tablet, and you guys know I'm a Windows guy from way back, was not that device for me. Whereas this has been. I do have some quirks because it does still have a mobile OS, so there's a lot of other. There's some things that show up every once in a while that rear their heads, but it's mobile, so you kind of work through it. But all of these apps are here. And unlike I mentioned earlier, unlike on the Windows side, I'm able to do a full download of any of the content. So if I'm traveling, I can keep them here, which again, that is that's beautiful. I don't know what else to say about that. One thing I do appreciate is that it does use I use Microsoft Authenticator for as not only my password vault, but as my multi-factor authenticator, and it is able to integrate very easily because it's built from a mobile-first perspective. So it works better here than it does even on the Windows devices. Not much better. So it's not, it's kind of a 1 and 1A type of thing, but better is better. So it does work well with that. So I'm trying to think, is there anything else I want to share? I don't want to just burn up time here, but if anything else comes up that I do want to share, because again, I'm still only a couple of weeks in, I will share with you. But yeah, this is a recommend for me. So if you want to go and get the 10 and spend the additional money for the latest device, cool. My recommendation at this point, using this device, is to use this one. I would get the Galaxy Tab Ultra 9, such a long name, I had to take a breath, and go on to Amazon and get a matte screen. And you have 90% of the way there to the Galaxy 10 Ultra. So that's where I'm at. I probably could have gotten a smaller device, but I decided to go with this one and I'm pleased because the real estate is perfect for me as a productivity device, as a consumption device. Everything, it's almost like an iMac, right? Where it has that same aspect, or even a Surface laptop, but again, something that You know, I can take all of this stuff, pop it away, right? Close this up on the road. And this is all that I'm carrying. That's the whole thing, even with the pen. So I highly recommend this. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe for more content, and I'll catch you guys later. So we kind of talked about this whole setup with the stylus and the pad and those type of things, where the use case is awesome, right? So one of the things I do want to share here, though, is the aspect ratio. They really nailed it, and we've talked about this on different devices. So I have a Pixel Fold for my work device. I've had both iterations of the Microsoft Surface Duo, where on dual screen devices couldn't get an aspect ratio right for certain apps or whatever. Okay, and with a device like this, with such a large screen, yeah, this is what AI thinks I look like, by the way. Okay. With certain screens, it allows me to do certain things from a viewing experience, from the consumption experience. So, at the risk of embarrassing myself, I'm going to disconnect here. So, let's see, do this one-handed. And let's collapse that. Great. And slide all of this stuff upward. Thank you. And so now, if we'll look at this social, and let's go to Instagram. And so the one thing that I'm going to tell you about Instagram, and for whatever reason it's not updating. Let's try this again. Instagram. There we go. So, God, this is the problem, is that this is a very difficult machine to hold one-handed. But look at how engaging Instagram is. And I'm not an Instagram fan, but this is insane, right? Of how engaging it is. I mean, it actually takes up this full aspect ratio. Trying to find something worth watching. And like I said, it's loud, but I mean, it actually is something worth watching in here, where this whole screen now becomes a huge Instagram device for social media. It's the same thing with YouTube Shorts. So again, you have to excuse my one-handedness here. If I go here, I'm gonna open up my YouTube and let's just find a random short.
We got a suspect here who used to weigh 400 pounds.
Let's go ahead and turn this down. So look at that. I mean, this is way more engaging than watching it on the phone. Way more engaging. And again, it's not heavy, it's just awkward, but I mean, look at this, right? So I slide through. So as you're looking at the new, I say new, I'm old, vertical media format, because of the aspect ratio that they chose, which is more of a 16 by 10, maybe a 14 by something. I can't remember off the top of my head. I can look that up. But the point is that because they chose this aspect ratio, it works perfectly in this format. It's crazy. I don't know. So now my ability to consume media. Wait a minute. Kendrick is over in Tunisia? That's hilarious. Sorry. But this is a different way for me to consume media that actually is pretty interesting now. So when I say that I watched this device, it was a case where, yeah, I do the productivity stuff and maybe some of the creativity stuff on the larger screen. But when it came to like consumption like this, tablets just didn't do it for me. But no, this is, this is amazing. Yeah. and engaging, and it actually really lends itself to this type of screen. So yeah, this is something I definitely would recommend highly. Is taking a look at the Ultra line, particularly the. I would recommend the 9, but if you have the coin to go to the 10, go with God. I chose just from a consumer perspective that I didn't see the juice being worth the squeeze to go pay the premium for the newer device when pretty much most of the content was the same. So this is one of the other reasons, things that I wanted to make sure I shared, is from a use case, just how beautiful not only the screen is, but that it actually is very useful. And I can't say enough things about the ability to consume on this device. So, so that's where I'm at with this squad. Is that overall, I'm very pleased with this purchase. It's a particularly with the savings that I was able to acquire through the open box, the holidays, and through just doing research, right? And trying to get to a price point that I thought was worth it. I would There are caveats. Like I said, I did figure out while I was switching cameras, the designer pieces and in the it's just where things are nested inside of the productivity apps, which I'm getting used to. But yeah, I'm pleased. I'm very happy with this device.
Hey fam, this is another benefit of having this Samsung Galaxy Tab 9 Ultra is that, sorry, from a productivity perspective, you can actually establish, you can have multiple sessions at one time. So you have a window here and a window there, for example, or you can do it top and bottom. So if I let's go back into here, I'm in Film More, I'm editing a video. I can take this and grab it by the handle here and I take it and just press on it. Now I have that screen, right? So if I'm working on this video, but I want to see what other pieces I may want to add to this, I can pull up my Google Photos on this side. So that may be other aspects that I want to add to this video that I could just hit plus and minus. Once you do this, this becomes a paired set now, right? So as you flip through your other videos, you'll be able to see this group together, and you can just click on that group and go back to it. Even after I close it, and let's go to a different program like email, for example. Um, I could take this, move this over here. Oops, move this over here, right? Email, and then I can select another website, for example. Let's just pull up a website, right? And so I could do it that way. And now I have both of those match sets of there. One of the most practical, um, one of the more practical couplings that I see is if you're working on a research assignment. So let's go into Kindle. Let's say I'll go into my library. Let's just pull up something by Neil deGrasse Tyson, right? I take this book. We're going to take it, put it over here on this side, and you can switch sides also. I could have put it on the other side. And then from here, I can go into, sorry for the scroll effect. Let's go into Office and let's go create, and then go into Word, right? So I create a new Word document. Or I could have that easily have done a PowerPoint. This is blank, so you don't see anything, right? But I can actually do my research from this document into um, the book while it's there. That is productivity at its finest. Um, if I wanted to, I believe I can just scroll this one down, or I may have to close the entire set. But I could do the same thing with a PowerPoint presentation. That's amazing to me. I really think that that is a winner in regard to a tablet being able to have that laptop-ish functionality that bridges that gap so I don't have to have a laptop. I can have a device like this that's a lot more lightweight, both in operating system and in functionality. But additionally, it's lightweight in size and I won't say form factor because it is 14 inches. It is relatively light and thin, but it still is a piece of mass that you have to carry around and accommodate for. But that's one of the things I wanted to make sure that I shared in this is that this is a beautiful application of how productivity can actually work out. So these are some of the things as I use it day to day that I find useful, and I want to make sure that I point out that yeah, you'll see those in the videos. There are plenty of videos that'll talk about this tablet and all of the capabilities and that type of thing. But just to be able to take a Bluetooth mouse or pad and or a Bluetooth keyboard and your stylus and have that level of productivity, but also have that access to the mobile world, which has become more the norm. That's a big deal, right? So, anyway, wanted to share that. Wanted to make sure that I put this here. Now I'll take you back to your regularly scheduled programming.